What's the haps? I'm John, aka Meroka, and welcome to Spiel. We're here today in Golden Sun Gate, because it's called Golden Sun. I'm not going to pass that opportunity up, not in the slightest. We love Golden Sun around here, so I'm totally going to check out the Golden Sun Gate. This is a shock-based thing, I think, predominantly. It looked shock-based things, but these guys seem to be shooting green blobs at me, which makes me slightly dubious about my choices in life. But nonetheless, anyway, let's start things off as we do with some Spiral Knights news. Yeah! Because that seems like a good way to start things off. So Spiral Knights news, there's a bunch of stuff that has been and gone. Well, stuff didn't hang around long this week. I did contemplate making a video on it last week, but given that it's like almost entirely promotional stuff, it's not really a major deal. It wasn't really a big thing. So Gobble Snipes arrived and went. And that was going to be your Thanksgiving type stuff. They don't refer to it as Thanksgiving as such in the game, but there you go, it's Thanksgiving. There are big fat turkeys turn up in town, and you can spend money on lock boxes, or prize boxes, whatever they are. Prize boxes they'll be. And the prize boxes can contain, potentially, if you're really, really lucky, a bit of a turkey to put in your house. Actually, I think those ones had a pretty good chance of getting a turkey out, but there's different rarities of turkey. So yeah, you'll get it. You probably I didn't really look into the distribution too heavily, but you get a turkey, or you have like a less than 10% chance of getting a flying turkey. Oh no, some people are into their turkeys, I guess. I'm not so much. I'm okay with what I got. I need no turkeys. There was also a bunch of flash sales. Those popped up for a little while. That was a part of, presumably as a part of Cyber Monday, that one would have been. On Monday there were a bunch of flash sales in the Supply Depot, so you could pick up various goodies within the Spiral Knights universe there for low prices. Again, didn't particularly check it out, so I don't know what was going on there. If there was something good, I totally missed it. I have partaken in flash sales in the past and then never actually gone on to sell the things that I bought, so I'm still, to this date, hoarding a bunch of accessories I have no plans to use that I spent a lot of money on. I should probably do something about that. Anybody want to buy overpriced stuffs from me? Because I am offering. That's the thing you can do. Anyway, there was also, as a part of the Steam sales was also a thing because of Black Friday and whatnot, and that's the thing that they do. So the DLC for the game went on sale. Not, I should note, for any particularly noteworthy discount. I think there was 50% off Operation Crimson Hammer. I think it's 50% off both, actually. Sorry, Operation Crimson Hammer and the Guardian's Armor Pack. And it should be noted that the historical maximum for the Guardian's Armor Pack was a 75% discount. Admittedly, it only ever did that once during a winter sale. I think it was a winter sale, and has never been at 75% off again. So if you're trying to hold out for the best possible deal, it seems like, historically speaking, it has gone better than this, but honestly not in recent history. So whether there are ever any plans to ever make it 75% off again or not, I don't know. I know over on the Spiral Knights subreddit, everyone jumped on that. It was like, oh my god, 75% off, you get a lot of good stuff for 75% off here. That's actually a pretty good deal. And like, everybody jumped at it. So I feel like doing the Guardian's Armor Pack with all the stuff that entails, because you get energy and all sorts of crazy junk in there. It's not just cosmetics, there's a lot of cool stuffs in there. There's like silver keys and things. All that stuff's, that is, at 75% off, that's a ridiculously good deal, and you should be jumping at that if you see that. At 50%, it's probably just kind of, well, it's a discount. It's not deal of the century, as it were. It's just a sale. So yeah, there you go, those are the main things. We are now into December. That also means we have new prize boxes. God damn you. Lock boxes even. We've got new lock boxes. I always confuse the two. They should make the mechanics different. They should not all be in boxes. And I'm getting shocked to all hell. So much for the poison, huh? So yeah, there are now gold gold lock boxes on the prize wheel at the end of the thing. The lock boxes on a prize wheel, damn it. So there are gold lockboxes on the prize wheel, and the new thing that you can get out of it is a monocle. Monocles are a new accessory for this month, so if you've not bought into the lockboxes before, you could have a chance of getting a monocle. I believe the guy who does the Spiral Spy did his usual sort of statistical distribution of things on his website, and it's about a 4% chance of getting a monocle out of any given box if you're wanting to go monocle hunting. So you might be better off with the auction house rather than spamming those, because it's going to take you probably somewhere in the region of about 25 boxes to get what you want if you're going to just persist at it. That's going to be a lot of boxes! It's going to be an expensive amount of boxes just for a monocle. All the other things in there are generally sort of things that one would typically expect to complement a monocle. There's the toupees and pipes and, you know, they're generally the dapper sort of things, the mustaches and whatnot. If you want those kind of accessories, those are there as well. Go check those out. So those will be doing the rounds this month in the lockboxes. That's the Spiral Knights news. Got some other bits and pieces. Obviously, as I say, with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, lots of stuff went on sale. Oh good, a Shock Compound. Looking forward to this. Lots of things went on sale on the internet, not least of which games. I myself did a spot of shopping. I also happened to get... and came completely out of left field. I did not expect this. This came like a day or two before Black Friday, so this was really well timed for me. But I got a nice chunky tax refund from the government. They're like, hey, we've taxed you way too much this year, or given how quickly our government works to sort that kind of thing out, it's probably last year. So they're like, here's a check for a bunch of money. And I was like, oh, this will buy me a nice new graphics card, especially with the sales coming up, so... I wish I was using it right now. I'm not. I have on its way to me at some point, you know, in the next couple of days, hopefully, a nice new shiny GTX 970 graphics card, which means my videos are going to be amazing in the future, at any rate. So, you know, all those times when I walked through Haven and my frame rate drops down to below 20 frames per second, hopefully I should be able to maintain 60 now. That would be amazing. I should actually be able to do 60 frames per second content, potentially, if that's the thing people want to see. That could be a thing. It'd be kind of cool. I did find out recently, actually, that I use Firefox as my browser, and Firefox doesn't actually support 60 frames per second. I hadn't particularly gone out my way to look it up, particularly. I will note that the few videos I had spotted where people had done like 30 versus 60 comparisons, I was like... I don't know if it's just me or your video or what, but they don't look much different. Yeah, that'd just be my browser. Firefox literally doesn't support 60 frames per second YouTube playback for whatever reason. That's really, really weird. So, maybe I should switch back to Chrome. I used Chrome for ages and not that long ago switched to Firefox, and now it seems like there's a ridiculous amount of things just don't support Firefox, which is crazy. Speaking of things that don't affect Firefox, also news, Steam is now trying to get into the video streaming market. They're maybe kind of, sort of, probably trying to compete with Twitch, I guess, so you can now apparently, I guess it's still reliant on your internet connection, but anybody, anywhere can just tune in and watch your video games if you want to allow them to do such things, which is interesting, I guess. Certainly I noticed, Fixer speculating that would open the gates to Steam doing, like, referrals and stuff, and streamers getting paid for doing it that way, because, obviously, I don't think Steam necessarily wants to go down the route of running adverts and whatnot, so we need some edge to compete with Twitch to give streamers an incentive to actually use Steam as opposed to anything else. I don't think that sounds like the sort of thing Valve's likely to do. They've never done anything like that remotely in the past. Yeah, they've compensated people for designs that have gone through Steam Workshop and ended up in game, but that's about the closest you've got. They've never done anything of that kind of ilk before. They've certainly never compensated people for recommending games or giving people a reason to buy games. Nobody ever got a cut. I mean, people sort of speculated for a while that the curator thing would go down that route, and oh, if you create a curator, it's essentially a storefront, and people buying games from your storefront will get a whatever percentage cut of sales. No, that's not how that works. Not in the slightest, and I can't, for the life of me, see Valve going down that route. I think it's more competing with the likes of, to be honest, more likely Xbox and PS4. They don't give anybody any particular incentive to do it other than convenience. And bearing in mind that Valve these days is very much trying to compete in the console market, they're basically saying, we want to be doing the same things that Microsoft and Sony are doing because we want to be seen as a console with new Steam boxes and whatnot. So I think the broadcasting thing that Steam is implementing is probably an answer more to Microsoft and Sony more so than Twitch, actually. Now that one gives it some consideration, because it's essentially the same service. Again, it's a kind of a weird thing. It doesn't seem to be quite as convenient just having had a look through the settings and whatnot. It seems like you have to go into your settings and manually flip through different options each time. Otherwise, basically, it's basically you're always streaming or you're never streaming, and then there's like, you can broadcast your desktop, that's fine, that's fair, that's whatever. I guess that's the sort of thing you could probably always do. I mean, if you're running OBS or something, you could have streamed your desktop before, that's fine. But you've got a start and stop button on OBS. You can say, okay, I wish to stream my desktop now, okay, I wish to stop doing that. With Steam, it's just like, as long as Steam is running, you can always be broadcasting. It's like, well, I don't want that. I don't want people watching me all the time. Give me a start and stop button. Rather than having to go into my settings and find the right page and pull from a drop-down list every time I want to start and stop. That's not a convenient way to do it. And, I don't know, maybe they're expecting you to only be running Steam when you want to play games, but I don't know about you. I have mine set to be on pretty much damn near all the time. When my Windows launches, Steam launches. And, yeah. It's as simple as that. I always have my Steam on, pretty much. I've recommended to many people on a number of occasions, friends and whatnot, and they're saying, oh, I can't ever get hold of you on Facebook. It's like, yeah, I don't use Facebook that much. I am always on Steam. You want to talk to me? Get hold of me on Steam. Steam is the way to talk to me personally. It is my social media of choice, I suppose, as it were. I don't really use, like, the news feed, the community feed thing that they do, but it is my social media of choice. I'll stand by that. At any rate, yeah, those are interesting things for the week. So, fancy new stuff's coming to the channel in the following weeks. So that's gonna make things purtier for you. There is a game on the horizon that I've been banging on about on the podcast for a few weeks now, which is Raven's Cry, which is one of those kind of, but not really entirely AAA things. It's maybe just a not AAA, maybe just A title or something. It's a full price title, and it looks rather good. It's not going to be necessarily Assassin's Creed, but I've got my eye on it. It's called Raven's Cry. It's about pirates. I'm really interested to give that a go. With my current graphics card, the one I am currently playing this game on right now and talking to you with, don't think it would be able to handle that game. I do think a new graphics card probably will, so I will be keen to take a look at that in the coming weeks as well. That's rather timed nicely, because that means that game's going to launch about when I've finally got the capability to do that. One other thing I should probably mention is the other project that's going on my channel at the minute, which is Advent of Indies. We're now into December, so December 1st through 23rd, I will be endeavouring to get one extra short video out to you every day at 6 PM on a different indie game every day. That is in collaboration with the Advent of Indies project that Rat King Entertainment runs every year. It's not any kind of sponsored promotional thing. I realise when I'm recording it, sometimes it kind of comes across maybe like they've paid me money to promote it or something. That's not the thing. I just really like what they do, and I kind of want to. There's no official connection between me and them. It's just, I want to do this, they're happy to let me do it, so I do it. It's fun for me to... It's a fun challenge for me to do a new format for a video, a new way of working for me, and the extra challenge of getting an extra video out, and I get to see an extra 23 cool indie games in 23 days and share those 23 indie games with you. So, I generally think it's a pretty positive project. I think it's one worth keeping an eye on. So go check that out if you're interested in indie games in any way, shape or form. It's not my normal review format, I will say that much. If you're expecting me to do a full first impressions, a proper critique on it, it's not. It's blind first impressions. It's Jim Effin Sterling's Sons kind of attempt on things, if you were following that little fiasco. It does seem like, yeah, there's certainly some developers, particularly the ones in that particular thing to which I was alluding, seem to think that all first impressions need to be this well-researched critique, and generally speaking I prefer that format, but I wish there weren't two different types of first impressions, because it just gets confusing, especially for people like that. Basically, first impressions in my book fall into both blind first impressions and researched first impressions, which would be a full and proper critique of things. The kind of things that certainly, say, someone like Total Biscuit would do, and the sort of thing I endeavour to do. And then you've got the other kind, which is more your Jim Sterling style, and I think I would say a number of the Strangelands, the kind of guys I follow, tend to watch their content. If anybody on the Strangelands group does first impressions type content, they're the sort of people I will tend to watch some of their other stuff on. So Mod, Wonderbot, those kind of guys. That's more blind first impressions, though. I don't really necessarily see it as a full critique, and I would prefer a full critique, but hey, each to their own. Everybody's got their different preferences. I know Alzarath tends to do a bit more of a Total Biscuit style kind of thing, so I do think that's kind of cool. That's worth a look at as well. So go check him out as well. All good, all good. Let's try and deal with this room. This is the nasty room that I totally hate. Let's hit all the switches ASAP and get out of here so I don't have to deal with all the nasties. I suppose we should do some questiones, because I've been rambling on about all sorts of things for long enough at this point. Oh god, I've got jelly. No, no, jellies don't trap me. I need to hit the switches. That's a switch. Am I done here? Am I done here, or is there something under this? I think it's open. I think it's open. I think it's open. Let me out, 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 let me out! Nope. Do not want. Too much stuff. Too much nasty stuff in there. Moving on. Fiends. That's fun. Let's do some questions. Don't forget, you can always ask me some questions or leave me topics, things to talk about in the comments below. Those are always welcome. Something to talk about in future episodes is always good. If I don't answer your stuff, I will probably have it on a notepad, and I will likely get to it in a future week. With Season 3 of Spiel, as we are now here, into the 3-digit episodes, Season 3 of this, I'm looking for more sort of intellectual kind of things, something where I can get stuck into a topic a bit and ramble about it a bit. As we've seen in the last few weeks, science fiction seems to be a popular thing, actually. I like talking about it, people like asking me about it, so it's just turning into a science fiction show. I'm kind of okay with this. I don't mind that. Let's just talk sci-fi. I'm good with that. Whether I can pull off 50 episodes of science fiction ramble, that's a different matter. Whether I can talk for full... Yeah, 50 episodes is going to be about 25 hours worth. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that, but hey, I'll have a go. So, one more of a quick one. Alexandre Delaporte asked a couple of weeks back, tetrahydrocannabinol... Cannabinol? How do you pronounce that? THC. What is it? If it's a thing, what is it for? That then, I will note, that then kind of went into a further discussion, which was... I should not be wearing this gear. This is not a good gear to wear. Let me pick up my armor. I went into a discussion where he said they'd been challenged by a friend to consume THC extract. I will note that that was probably not THC extract. That's unlikely to be a thing, because THC is a chemical. It would be, I suppose you would call it, if you're going to call it anything, it would be the extract of cannabis. Tetrahydrocannabinol. Which I still think I'm pronouncing slightly wrong. I don't know. I can pronounce it in my head, and then when I come to say it, it's like, that just sounds wrong. I think it's right, but I don't know. Either way, it is the primary psychoactive ingredient in the cannabis plant. It is a thing you would smoke to get high. It is pot, it is weed, it is... call it what you like. It's the stuff that makes you high when you do weed. Or cannabis, or marijuana. Pick a name, it has many names. And yeah, if you were to consume that as pure, essentially, cannabis extract, pure THC, I don't think it'd kill you. It wouldn't kill you. It wouldn't do any... You probably wouldn't have a good time. You would not have a good time. It takes the lethal dose of that is extremely high. It's one of those things you would have to consume ridiculous amounts of before it would, kill you. Sort of thing where we're talking like... Yeah, like everything has a lethal dose. Water technically has a lethal dose insofar as if you consume enough of it, it will kill you. THC kind of, I don't think it's quite that much, quite like water, but you're kind of getting into that territory. It's not. I don't think anyone ever really died from it. I think there might be like one, and that's a really weird case. But broadly speaking, it won't kill you. You'll have a nasty time of it though. You will be high as a kite for some considerable time, and it probably won't be a fun experience. It'd be too much. I will note that my experiences with such substances are not particularly extensive. I will relate the story in which my mate decided during my university years that it would be a fun experiment to go out and buy some weed and bake it into space cakes. Or space brownies. Everyone had one. I was like, okay, this is doing nothing. Let's have a second one. Had a second one. Everyone else seemed to have a pretty good time. I spent the next 2 to 3 hours laid on a couch having a monumental panic attack. So, yeah, I have now read a great many discussions on the issue of consumable marijuana, and generally speaking, the consensus is such that if you eat it, it's way, way, way more potent, and you probably should be way more careful with it. You eat one, and then you know, wait out. Don't just give it half an hour and say, hey, this isn't doing anything, and then have another one. Give it a few hours. If nothing's happened after a few hours, yeah, nothing's happened, sure. You might have got, I don't know, a dud batch. Someone's gone and got some grass clippings and sold you that. But, yeah, be careful with that, and I would say, if that's my experience with space cakes, THC extract would mess you up big time for a long time, I suspect. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I mean, broadly speaking, don't do drugs, kids. Drugs are bad, okay? Eric Calvi has a few questions. What do you think of Mandalorian armor in Star Wars? I would not have been able to tell you a damn thing about Mandalorian's armor in Star Wars. I had to go and look this one up. I don't know quite what you're expecting me to say about it. It appears to be, as far as I can make out, a kind of very much a fantasy kind of armor. Basically kind of your unobtainium stuff. I gather within the canon it's like made of a mythical metal that is really scarce and rare in the universe these days. Once upon a time it was wildly abundant and a useful material, and all of a sudden, hardly all of a sudden, but you know, it's one of those materials that's become scarce over millennia or whatever, as resources have been used, and it's not quite so abundant. And it was used once to make armor which was resistant to lightsabers, which, again, are they not intended to be like a blade that can cut through everything? We talked about lightsabers already, and actually, looking at this, there's like a lot of references to all sorts of things in this that's kind of looping it. I like how self-referential this entire season has become. Everything's referring to each other, but I'm okay with this, again. I don't mind you guys giving me questions that refer to things I've already talked about. It works. Oh, hi. I have no idea. Oh, God. I have no effective way to deal with this. Oh, God. Let's electrocute it, because that can only go well. Hey, it went well. So, yeah, it's kind of unobtainium, I think is what it is. It's one of those, it's mithril, it's adamantite, it's unobtainium. Call it what you will, it's just a very silly thing that's like, oh, it's impervious to lightsabers, which can cut through everything. Well, it can't cut through everything, it can't cut through traditional Mandalorian armor. So, yeah. I don't know. Science fiction, man. Makes no sense. Especially soft science fiction like Star Wars. Again, we're talking about something that's designed for popular culture consumption, not something that's designed to be hard sci-fi. This is not based on any kind of reality. It's just, hey, yeah, there's a metal that's super tough and can't be cut through by anything, including superheated plasma shaped into a beam. If that's what lightsabers are. I'm not rightly sure that that's right, but yeah. Kind of a strange thing, and mostly a fantasy fictional thing. That's all I've got on that one. Additionally, what do you think about Tesseract theory in A Wrinkle in Time? How far do you think we are from realizing it? Again, not a movie I've seen, or indeed a book I've read. I don't know which one you're particularly referring to. It appears to be both a book and a movie. Movie, as far as I can make out, generally critically pans. The book is whatever. It's a thing I haven't read, if nothing else. As far as I can make out, Tesseracts theory in that seems to function in a very similar way to wormholes, and we've kind of already touched on wormholes a couple of weeks back. Tesseracts in most other popular culture would be depicted as kind of... I suppose a good way to look at it is, again, to go to Interstellar, insofar as it is a higher dimensional representation of a lower dimensional object. It's generally regarded as being a four-dimensional cube, is kind of the way you would think of a Tesseract. A 4D cube. Look up a... like a hypercube is another name for it, and the second movie in the Cube series of films, Hypercube, dealt with this issue, and yeah, I would say kind of the higher dimensional stuff within Interstellar kind of, it's the same kind of thing. It's basically trying to put higher dimensions in terms that our lower dimensional minds and bodies can comprehend. If you think about the way people often illustrate this is, if you take a strip of paper and you draw a line on it, someone who lived in a 1 or 2 dimensional universe whose entire being of existence was confined to that sheet of paper, How would one get from one end of the line to the other? You'd have to walk along it. It would be a straight line. There'd be no way to take a shortcut. That's it. But if you have 3 dimensions, you can take the sheet of paper, you can fold it in half, and the 2 ends of the lines can touch each other. And that's how a 3rd dimensional one would shortcut that issue within 2 or 1 dimensions. The same could then be said to apply to... I need to find out which... Oh, I always do that. I need to find out which floor I'm in. The same could be said to apply to basically our dimension. We live in a 3-dimensional, physically speaking, universe. 4-dimensional if you include time, but time's a weird one. Sometimes people include time, sometimes people don't. Beasts. I need something that fights beasts. So in Interstellar, they were kind of like, oh yes, we can use the 5th dimension to circumvent the 4th dimension, which is time. And then in other circumstances, it's more, yes, we can use the 4th dimension to circumvent the 3rd dimension. Which is basically how wormholes work. Which is basically, it's kind of a wrinkle in time, or space, or whatever. It's basically 2 points in the 3rd dimension are kind of touching each other through the 4th dimension that we can't experience because our minds and bodies are existent in a plane of 3 dimensions. We have no access to this 4th dimension, so we can't experience that, except by going through a wormhole or a Tesseracts or whatever you want to call it in that particular thing. As I dealt with already with the... Oh man, I've got totally the wrong weapons for this. I expected beasts, not jellies. As I mentioned with the wormholes before, wormholes are... Relativity says they should exist, but we've never seen or found or made one. If you go through the theory of relativity, they are mathematically plausible. You can do the numbers and you can say, yes, in theory, this should be a thing that exists within our universe as we know it. However, humanity has never seen one, never made one, not got any experience with one. It is purely a hypothetical, theoretical thing. In most circumstances that we include one, it's usually sort of, oh, it's made by an outside higher intelligence, or whatever. There's usually some wishy-washy outside science fiction explanation that doesn't really get to the heart of the matter. I mean, again, in Interstellar, the core of the thing was, hey, there's a wormhole! We don't know how it got here! There's a wormhole! It's like, that was it. It's just like, hey, there's a wormhole. It's like, yeah, okay, where'd it come from? We don't know! Somebody put it there, but we don't know who it was. Alrighty. Okay then. Sure. That's a film. So, yeah. How far are we from realizing Tesseract theory or wormholes or whatever? A very, very, very long way. As I say, at this moment in time, it's a purely hypothetical, theoretical thing. We have never seen, had anything to do with anything of the sort. We are about as far away as we could possibly be. It is purely in the realms of science fiction at this point in time. That ain't gonna happen. What else do we have? I don't know how much time we've got. I've got a couple of questions. One might have to wait for a future week, because I do want to talk about it, because it was also in the news fairly recently, but I might hang fire on it till next week. Because I got one from Mod1982, which is just a kind of a quickie, simple chit-chat kind of question. I don't want to answer too many of these kind of questions, but I suspect there's not too much more of this level left, and I don't have time to talk about the other one, so we'll go with it. Mod1982 says, can you recommend a sci-fi game for mobile? Preferably something single-player and offline. Honestly, don't have too much experience with mobile games. I occasionally pick up the occasional one, but... God damn it, get out of my way. Stop taking my auto-aim. Especially sci-fi. I'm really struggling to think of many sci-fi ones. The only thing I can really think of off the top of my head is Shattered Planet, which I did a review on the PC version a few months back. I know Wonderbot did a few episodes on it. He did a bit of a proper Let's Play on it. I can't say I necessarily think the PC version was well balanced, because ultimately on mobile it is a free-to-play thing, and clearly it's been balanced around free-to-play. I don't know how well balanced it is in free-to-play. I don't think it was particularly exploitative, but that's something you need to check out and find out kind of how their payment model worked on that one. It's not necessarily something I'd like to recommend people getting into free-to-play, but certainly on PC it wasn't a bad game. It just had a couple of balance issues. Basically, it was a fairly traditional turn-based, grid-based roguelike thing, it was quite entertaining, quite charming. Got a reasonable style going on. And yeah, it certainly fits the bill if you're looking for sci-fi stuff, if anything, if nothing else. I can't think of many other mobile games I've really gotten into in a big way. I mean, I've played a few word games. Little Inferno's good. I can recommend Little Inferno. It's hardly sci-fi, but I can recommend it. It's got a spaceship in it at the end. That's about it. Spoiler alert. Swords and Sorcery, Swords and Sorcery? Is it Swords and Sorcery? Swords and Soldiers, sorry. Yeah, Swords and Soldiers I played through a bunch of. Again, that's more historical, I guess, than anything else. Not really very. It's fictional history stuff. Ingress. Ingress is sci-fi. Get into that. Ingress is good. Join the Resistance. Resistance is awesome. I know. Model resaid last week he didn't like Ingress, so I'm just messing with him. However, if you like the idea of sort of augmented reality stuff, Ingress is a very good example of augmented reality stuff. I kind of like that. Ingress does it quite well. Extra Credits did a video on augmented reality a couple of weeks back, and they were like, I might have been, I don't know, I've been dredging through their archives a bit. It might not even have been a few weeks back. It may have been like years back, actually, come to think of it. I watched it a few weeks back, where they touched on augmented reality, and they're like, oh yeah, a lot of stuff just uses Google Maps, and it's really bad, and I'm like, but the Google Maps stuff that I played was really good. What? What is this? Ingress is a good game. I don't know. I think their idea of good augmented reality would be like kind of a hybrid of the kind of overlaying stuff on the real world and incorporating it into Google Maps, which is like, oh, if you're in a park, you could catch a specific Pokemon or something, or like, oh, you hold the camera up and it says, oh, there's a Pokemon in those bushes over there because you're in a park and it's going to work with the scenery. There was a gold lockbox, I saw one. And yeah, that would probably be their idea of good augmented reality. I don't think anyone's done that, to be honest. I'm going to grab my phone quickly and flick through and see if I have anything sci-fi on here that I could recommend. Played Color Sheep. Color Sheep's fun. Not sci-fi. Adventure Bar Story's fun. Not sci-fi. Jack Lumber's fun. Not sci-fi. Max Gentleman's fun. Not sci-fi. No, that's pretty much what I've got on my phone. No, I have no sci-fi mobile recommendations outside of Shattered Planet, I am afraid. So there you go. I need to play more mobile stuff, I guess. I don't find much call to do so, but there you go. But that will wrap us up for the week, so I'm thinking as the end of the year draws near, I think next week may well be my typical end-of-year gaming roundup, gaming awards ceremony type thing, favourite games and whatnot, so as always, yeah, leave questions and topics like usual, but if you've got any suggestions on categories for me to pick games for, those could go in the comments this week, and if you've got, say, hey, what's your favourite game set in Egypt? I don't know. I don't think I played any game set in Egypt this year. Don't recommend that as a category, but, you know, that's what I mean. Yeah, pick some interesting categories, maybe. That would be kind of cool if you could do that. But as always, yes, leave standard questions as well. Those would be cool as well, because I will get to those in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, that'll do it for today. So thank you very much for watching. I have been Meroka, this has been Spiel, and I'll see you next time.